Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a very warm tervetuloa to our guest, Toni Keskinen from Helsinki. He is the founder and CEO of 180 Ops. That's it.
180 Ops.
180 Ops, because it could have been 180,000. So horsepowers you are delivering to the audience. To make brief in the intro, you have spent decades helping large organizations turn customers and markets data into better decisions. Decisions that actually stick operationally, not just look good in dashboards. You also are the author of Path of Growth and Profitability, where you were talking in our pre-discussion that your kids are now in the university or business school and have the pleasure to read your book because it's some stuff they got taught about. Now, is revenue ops as a provocative thesis the new CRM? Having said that, I have some doubts. So we would love to discuss this. And as an opener, and that you have an opportunity to talk a bit about yourself, especially why Finland for such a business is so special, I would like to hand over to you, Toni. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and I'm so pleasure to be here talking to you. What has happened really is it has been a journey. I started as a planner in Ogilvy Networks, Ogilvy One agency, and was concentrating on direct marketing and customer loyalty and loyalty programs and maximizing customer lifetime value. And that's something that I think that RevOps really is about. How Finland then comes to this picture is that in 2004, I started doing customer journey analytics. So Jarmo Suominen, a lecturer and professor at MIT, and a professor for mass customization from MIT, was guiding me and the team that I was working with. And we were really looking into developing a methodology of how to analyze customer journeys and understand what's happening there. And that journey understanding actually educated me to understand that really the marketing, for example, only had a small role in the customer journey decision. It was about the product experience. It was about channel experience. It was about messaging and perception. It was about preferences. It was about finding a right situation of when the need actually arises in the customers and so on. And to do this customer journey analysis back in 2004, it was about research. And Finland is a wonderful place in a sense that this is a 5.5 million people country. Organizations are extremely flat. If you want to have a meeting with the CEO of a listed company, you can just book it. And for me, what was weird for my WPP and Ogilvy colleagues and Omnicom colleagues later was that how did I get to do such a job that I could move around from sales to marketing to customer success, analyze CRM data, web analytics data, customer success data, research data, interview salespeople, and come to conclusions that actually then represented the insights and possibilities, the big levers that were the ones that actually then were capable of changing things. And that kind of way of being able to move around the companies, how Finnish companies respect professionalism and the knowledge, not so much about the role, especially when you are an external. So when you're not inside the company, but you are an external advisor, you can basically move around the company very well and this, my daughter then at some point asked me that, what is it that you do for a living, Dad? And we've all had that question, anybody who has a child. And if you're working in business, how do you explain what you do for a living? and I was explaining that, well, the customer, for example, tells me that we have this flat line, that we have been doing everything in our power and we just can't get to growth. And then Daddy goes into the company and studies different data sets and finds a way out that how can we change this? So she was saying that, okay, so you're a business Sherlock. I was like, that's perfect. That's perfect explanation. But
isn't it rather Dr. Watson?
Could be. But that kind of, I don't see CRM as a technology. It's CRM, CX, marketing, service design, behavioral economics, creation of offerings and immaterial assets, or doing portfolio management are all parts of the same equation. And in that sense, I would say that I've been doing RevOps since 2004.
Well, as we are doing CRM since about 1995, which is well before the term got coined.
Well, CRM and also the CX and the foundations, the beginning of how it all started and on how the thinking was. The books were all full of the anecdotes about the small village store where the store manager knew everybody and knew exactly what everybody needs, and then the CRM was supposed to replace that and make that scalable and accessible, and well, it didn't.
Why?
It's a system of record. If the user experience of CRM for salespeople was for decades management responsibility or reporting responsibility. You needed to report so you get paid what you have been doing. It delivered zero value for you as a salesperson, and it also recorded that you have done the job that you were expected to do.
Means that these are not CRM systems, but time recording systems.
Yeah.
Which is not CRM. So a total misnomer, or let's put it like that. The vendors apparently totally lost the path then. Ouch.
Here you go. First provocative thesis.
So what created the need for a what's the word? Discipline? RevOps.
RevOps,
or is it just marketing?
No.
Or is it just marketing speech that someone who's smarter than I desperately needed a new term and coined revenue operations?
Well, I would say that CX and RevOps are about exactly the same thing, except the fact that the factor that is being measured and everything's designed based on is the revenue. CX was and has never really solved the challenge. How, for example, Graham Hill is talking about CX is about business, it's about profits, it's about growth, efficiency, and long-term both new customer acquisition success and lifetime value development. That's what CX should have been. That's what CRM should have been. But really, how I see it is that we came to the conclusion that there was multiple developments happening simultaneously. There was the technological development was advancing. The machine marketing automation technology was developing. There was the dawn of understanding of, for example, in the early 2000. During the 2000 first decade, there was customer acquisition hype. Then there was churn prevention hype. Then there was loyalty program hype. and then we moved on, and all these kind of stacked up into the realization. Also, customer journey analysis was becoming a norm in 2010 and forwards. Those all things proved the fact that it's necessary and actually imperative to bring together customer-facing functions so that we have sales, marketing, and customer success data brought together. That was actually what I was doing as a Sherlockie, because a single data set didn't explain what was happening. It was always about combining the data sets when you got the insights and you were capable of understanding what's actually happening and what is important. Whether it's about churn or winning new business, you always need to understand the whole picture.
Now you said two things. One of them makes me happy, and the other one not so. The part that makes me happy is all data sets means it needs a suite. You can't do without a suite, and well, I'm a suite guy, so being SAP raised. So that's part one. There's a part that makes me happy. The other part is more what I seem to have heard in the beginning of your statement is basically the customer doesn't matter. It's all inside out, and it's all company thinking how can we extract more money out of the customer without any regard of what we can do to the customer to make him want to give it to us and not to Ralph or Thomas, but to Toni.
And well, that's where customer journey analytics really comes to play. When I started in 2004 doing customer journey analysis, already then people were decisive. They had their needs, they had their perceptions, they had their priorities. And if you didn't understand those, you couldn't really match the expectations or solve the challenges that customers have. For example, when people were buying broadband connections, our very first customer journey analysis was about broadband buying. And majority of the customer journeys ended up in buying nothing because it felt too difficult. And when we were doing the studies, we realized what the difficulties and challenges were, and we removed those, which meant that we increased sales by 240% overnight. And that's like when we are doing RevOps, we need to understand the customers. We need to do outside in, we need to understand the customers, and then we need to match our operations to meet those expectations or serve the purposes that make the customer experience better. And that's really about how I see is that when I actually wrote the Path to Growth and Profitability book, I called 180 Ops operating system for commercial management. I only later realized that there's a name for it. It's called RevOps. When I published that book in 2022, I had never heard about RevOps. But that's what it really is. It's outside bottom up, outside in understanding, and then how I did when I first started doing the customer journey analytics. It was about doing the channel development, communication development, and so on. But later on, it evolved into transformation consulting. So it was about bringing the sales, marketing, and customer service departments together, deciding, doing service blueprinting, that this is the customer's journey. These are the difficulties that the customers have. These are our assets and capabilities that can match those demands, which meant that, for example, one client of mine had a very difficult loyalty problem. They sold via telesales, and a year later they sent an invoice, and the drop in subscriptions was terrible. And also people didn't really recall that they had bought something a year ago. So they were furious about it, that I'm getting invoice for something I don't know. How we solved that was actually understanding the problem and solving it with marketing automation. Communicating week ahead that a year ago you bought this, and this is what you have earned or got value from the service that you have been getting. And what was the impact was that the calls declined by 70% and the churn halved.
Wow.
Single email. And
well, the churn halved and the number of customers dropped by 70% means it's still a net loss.
No, the churn, customers leaving was 50% lower. But also because
on the base of 30% of the original number of customers means you are on a net loss.
It was a huge win. It was a huge win, but it was all about doing the optimizing for who is which discipline, which technology and means of communication would be best for different situations. And when I'm now looking at the technological development, the data availability is huge. Data is available from everywhere. And we are now capable of understanding what's happening with the customers way better than in the past. So the point of data is to bring the internal data and also enrich it with external data, which then gives a full view that what is happening in the customer relationships. How are the customers growing or declining or firing or hiring or doing mergers and acquisitions or something? And how is the development in customer relationships developing? Are they buying or churning or what's happening? And that allows you to, with the connected data sets, you can then create time series analysis, understand the correlation and causality of different events happening and what is the impact, which means that when you have real-time data coming in and it meets with the historical learning, in most cases, you can already know where the buck is now moving. And so you're not going where the buck was, but where it's going next. And that's what I think that is the game changer right now, that creating a situational awareness in management, in understanding, for example, when the energy prices are hiking and inflations and for example, since Trump was elected, the economic policy uncertainty has become the all-time high. Well, it has an impact on how customers are behaving. And when we have historical data about these changes, we can now recognize that some customer groups or some offerings are declining, others are sprinting. And that's the constant change of priorities that we need to be able to adapt to. And that's where the technology and analytics really come into play, and capacity to live on the pulse of the market and customers.
So now, if a CRM is only a workflow surface, what's then the value? It's one of your theses, right? There still is some value.
There's absolutely value. How we are now operating is with an idea that we need to deliver right answer to the right person at the right time in an understandable form and in the technologies that customers use for decision making. So that means that CRM is the one that is for salespeople and customer facing functions. It's mostly the number one tool that should be the single source of truth. So the delivery of data, the insights needs to be available in the tool that is the single source of truth. It doesn't mean that that tool is the one creating the data crunching and creating the insights and understanding, but it needs to be the tool where it's available. And the role that CRM now has in the companies, I don't think that it's anytime short term changing. Companies have been built around their CRMs, and it's really a functional operating system for organizations, but they can be made smarter. That's definitely something that needs to happen.
Well, the source of truth, isn't that a data warehouse or a CDP? Which is the consolidated data?
Yes. So we actually did an analysis about calling one area of the CDP and came to conclusion that it's better to call it a data lake or something else. CDP has a CDP as a tool has a very strong stigma in only concentrating on marketing. So if you call something CDP, it can't be the commercial operating system for commercial management. And what's happening now really is that companies are connecting the data. They are bringing the data together, but it's not enough. The data doesn't do anything when it's brought together. It needs to be transformed. It needs to be connected. It needs to be processed in a way that there's a logic and that there's a story in the data, and then you can use it, for example, through MCP for agentic AI, or you can create 180 ops like views about what's happening in the marketplace and how do we make sense of data.
Understandable. With oil, you cannot drive a car. You have to go through a refinery to create the gasoline. Yeah. So understandable. How is the secret sauce to get a second life in a CRM, not only in the system, but in the meaning and the sense of relationship with human beings, and to do something to the benefit of both?
Yes, we only concentrate on B2B, and there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it because if you think about, for example, motive-based segmentation for consumers, it's a pretty difficult job to deliver. What are the motives of different types of people? You need a lot of data about those people. In case of a company, it's a completely different thing. It's all public. You can buy Dun & Bradstreet, Moody's, Zoom infos, and so on. What's happening in those companies? What's important from them? How do I then serve that company and their goals and purposes? It's available data that can be addressed with significant accuracy, and that's why we actually decided to only concentrate on B2B business. So it's a combination of what are the needs of different types of companies, but it's also about the role. So how do you meet different people in the different roles? And there's two different layers. There's the company layer and the company's needs. And how do you, for example, create strategic segmentation that takes into account that manufacturing companies have completely different needs, or they for example need completely different set of offerings than a bank or a telco or a legal agency.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you are saying that a CRM system, not as a strategy, as a system, solved or did not solve a bunch of problems, which now are getting solved by a discipline called RevOps, which I would still call a part of whatever is a CRM strategy. So now, why or what did vendors prevent from solving these issues within existing systems? Because I mean, I'm not wanting to step on your feet, but it's not exactly rocket science, right? So you need to, yeah, it's quote unquote simple analytics, simple decision analytics. Yeah, collect the data, get from somewhere, which doesn't exactly need yet another system.
I have no idea.
Yanking your chain here.
I have no idea. I do see that in the future, now that technology always, when new technologies, new ideas spring up, they start as individual technologies, and then consolidation and convergence happen, and things are brought together, and so on. A lot of that will happen to different types of analytics and AI companies. So I
are you calling for investors now?
Well, we could be very well OEM inside Salesforce or Dynamics or HubSpot or ServiceNow, and that would be an excellent exit strategy for us.
Yeah. So
why they haven't done it themselves? It's a good question. I have no idea.
If they haven't done it, so if the big boys haven't done it, why is it a big thing then? Because
it's a big thing.
One could consider, just thinking out loud here, whether it's right or wrong, that businesses in general are kind of rational, and that they are concentrating on the bigger things of business, of life. I merely wanted to say of business. So, which means that this is not a big thing because nobody did it. Or have they just been too dumb?
No, they have been serving a purpose of demand, and what has been demanded is what they have developed. And as the world is siloed and the different functions are operating separately, and that the status quo is in fact that the CFO office and the sales office and the marketing use different technologies for their needs, and they have different source of truth. The world has been operating like this, so there has not been a kind of market for this convergence and consideration. RevOps is now changing that. There's a clear business need and value in bringing the data together, creating the connected insights from and explanations of why is this. And I think it's a question of maturity. How demand is developing, how offering is developing is of course pushing the boundaries of demand, because we need to educate the markets. Small companies and startups are the ones that are bringing in new ideas, and when the big boys see that's actually something that is working and something that is worthwhile, then they are ready to invest and go for it. But right now there has not been such a push.
So it means you're ahead of the curve, which would be a good
message.
Which would be a good
absolutely.
message.
I absolutely think so.
You should pat your shoulders.
There's now I'm sparring with Lauri Kurki, who is leading 2-day beat business in Finland, and he's a Salesforce integrator. And he's making a doctorate about sales strategy and how data and analytics is changing the way how sales strategy is being implemented. And for example, he has been using Ansoff matrix really effectively in managing business. And right now he's writing something, an academic paper that brings to light the fact that unsolved metrics is not enough, and there needs to be ways of modeling and understanding that it's a different thing when you are upselling and renewing customer deals, and when you are cross-selling, or when you are doing new customer acquisition, and how do you optimize your sales for in order to kind of both bring in new customers and market penetration, while also delivering on customer lifetime value increase by cross-selling, and maximizing the impact of Salesforce. And that's something that now right now 180ops is one of the technologies he's using as an example of how these things should be done. I absolutely am confident that we are ahead of the curve, and that's why I think that why we are ahead of the curve is actually the fact that Finland has been the place where this convergence and collaborative thinking and connecting the data sets and doing it empirically first, and learning what works, and where the kind of Sherlocking scalable challenges and possibilities can be found, so that we can create a technology that can scale the Sherlocking that I've been doing manually is possible.
Okay, so it's not only scaling the detective business of Sherlocking, but it is also that you describe that Finland is an excellent ground for co-creation.
Yes, absolutely.
Ah.
Because all the parties, there's also not so strict silos. We need to get the job done. So getting the job done is the thing that you need to think, and how do you get the job done? So experimenting and learning and discovering and then proving the point is probably easier here than it is in the Central Europe or US.
What I found.
Access.
Why?
I think there's access to these people. It's easy to do.
Why is it easier in Finland than in, let's say, Timbuktu?
I have no idea. It could be that Timbuktu is a similar place to Finland.
Well, I don't know. I don't know either place well enough.
No, I was stunned why I made that co-creation remark, that when, and it is a long time ago, Urho Alva Kekkonen was still alive when my parents were in Finland. But in the parliament, there were 3 different parties, and they had their own thinking. But when it comes to the better of Finland, they had no dispute. They worked together towards one goal. And that was to me absolutely brand new. Because if you go to the German parliament, this is like a flea market. You are not aware who is running in what direction. And it is that for the citizens, they are not the proper representatives in Berlin, in the parliament.
Right.
So you have the impression that everybody is looking for his own benefit, but not for the community's benefit. And they are not running towards one goal, except there is one enemy knocking on the door. Then there is, so to say, a kind of mutual understanding. If we go for business, it is everybody is shouting and moaning about taxes. But in the revenue ops business, such as if you do not get some revenue support, then you can't pay taxes. And if you co-create, you need some foundation of money to do the job together. How do you get easier
one thing that that I think really is the fundamental thing is that when we are studying behavioral what people actually value and the customer behavior. Well, they vote with wallets. So what would be the number one case? How do you analyze customer experience? You analyze how people choose with their wallets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, for example, I'm looking at data, for example, that now we have this flat line of revenue development, and then there are customers that are growing. Then we have customers that are declining, and you always find Pareto principle there. There are certain types of companies declining. There are certain offerings declining. There are certain companies types that are growing. And when you get to that understanding, it's way easier to kind of also get to, well, concentrate your efforts in learning what is the story behind this development, and what can we do about this development. And for example, in terms of risk and readiness analysis, so churn risk and buying readiness, the things influencing these behaviors are about macroeconomic development and changes in the company, and that kind of gives us the understanding that there are things that we can't, for example, influence. That for example, if there's COVID now hitting us, demand of some offerings will decline, no question about it. But there are offerings that benefit from that change. And then you need to reorganize your priorities and jump onto those growing opportunities and go after those. The revenue is an indicator directly, and it's way better than NPS for management, because when we are talking about culture, we are talking about way of operating, collaborating. So RevOps is definitely not a technology. It's a way of managing company, creating insights and managing company operating together for the same shared purpose. RevOps technology's role is to enable that, give the answers, create the shared perception of reality and the change that is happening in the market. And if that's something that RevOps technology doesn't deliver you, it's not a RevOps technology at all.
So now one could say the same about CRM and CRM technology. It started as a way to run a business, supported by technology, and these days it's an aging technology. What makes you convinced that RevOps technology or RevOps doesn't follow the same trajectory? I mean, CX is doing the same, right?
Yeah, CX fell into NPS.
Or customer
KPI,
customer service, CSAT, or the CX department is CX department is customer service these days.
Yeah, it is.
So, but what makes you hopeful or convinced even that RevOps doesn't run into the same trap and becomes let's say, a finance department's responsibility?
Well, there's already multiple years of experience and historical data and learning about how RevOps has improved different type of businesses, and whether we talk about wholesales or retail or services or technology or manufacturing, the figures are significant and improvements are significant. I do think that it's inevitable that we finally mature as businessmen and management to the realization that we need to treat this as an entity, as a whole, and not separate functions.
Yes, well, that was the same in the past. The same was true, but it didn't work out.
Well, that technological maturity, now AI, agentic AI, the capabilities of doing it have improved so much that it's now available much easier. It's no longer like, for example, there was Tesco's and Amazon's that created the model by investing huge amount of money. Now we are talking about a monthly fee that is worth like one person's salary, and it's the cost effectiveness, the risk, how much lower the risk is and the speed of getting to value. They are moving so fast that I am convinced that this is something that is happening now.
I was wondering, as you had a position, you said, yeah, one is more in the NPS mode or CSAT or whatsoever, but you mentioned that you are in behavioral analytics, or that you try to understand people by their behavior. You are on the opposite track, like our last week's guest, who was a big fan of the number crunching side towards the behavioral attitude. Those do have in the flower bouquet its opportunities, but are you convinced that the behavioral approach, persons, the trajectories such as a buyer journey, a customer journey, are still a better approach, or are they a better approach for revenue ops?
It would be wrong to say either or. Okay. Because how I see it is that always you need to get to the story behind the data. Data tells you what's happening, but it doesn't explain it. Sometimes it does. For example, the risk and readiness, that what factors, what changes are influencing how. So there's an explanation connected. It's a story. But in most cases, you need to use, that's what the Sherlocking was really about, understanding the data, where the priorities are, what's happening, and then talking to people, and talking internal people, and talking to the customers, and finding out why is this phenomenon happening, what can we do about it. It's not either or, it's both. But what you don't understand or know, you can't manage. So the bottom line is that you need to you can only manage what you know or understand.
Okay.
So now you are saying that ultimately you are improving the experience using, let's say, statistical means or advanced statistical means.
Yes.
So that outside in thinking doesn't turn inside out thinking. So what do you think are the main levers there? So the main modes for failure that you can avoid by doing this, that CX ran into? Oh, well, CX ran into the traps, of course, not into the levers, but didn't use the levers.
We collaborated together with Graham Hill by making capability mapping and understanding that the supporting capabilities required for a company to really make most of this kind of technology. So it needs to turn into a management practice operating model, which requires capabilities. So what we are doing is finding partners to work with who are capable of then helping customers to really do the change and prioritize. And because it goes all the way to how are, for example, salespeople's customer portfolio set. Does the salesperson, for example, only have customers that are in the farming sector with no future growth potential? Well, you can't expect growth from a salesperson who only has farming customers. So it goes all the way to incentive models and structuring your where your resources are being directed towards, and so getting that right. So not only delivering technology, but actually helping companies to take on the change, and the capabilities is absolutely required.
Who's responsible for RevOps?
In Finland, it's in Finland and in the Nordics, we don't have CROs. We have chief commercial officers,
which is pretty much the same
CEOs.
in my world,
yeah. So and who owns it is in case how with the customers how it works. It's often chief commercial officer who's responsible for the technology, so the owner of the technology. Then there is the technical side, ownership of keeping it updated and so on. But the point is that it's a steering and collaboration. So doing the service blueprinting and understanding the sales, the customer success and marketing responsibilities, and doing the processes is definitely something that is a collaborative act. Very often, the best way to start is that, for example, the company has done a new strategy, and they have created a program like commercial excellence or sales transformation or something along those lines, or RevOps transformation, which means that there's an owner, there's technical resources, and there's a program that allows someone is responsible for driving the change inside the company, and is reporting to management team. And the management team is involved in also using the product, because if we don't have management on board, nothing happens.
So now, for the sake of the argument again, back in the early nodes, CRM ran into the trap of becoming the whip for the COO, harassing the salespeople. Yeah, and as said, so CRM was actually supporting all three main customer-facing branches.
Right.
So now then we had CX that ran into the trap of becoming the realm of the customer service, the chief of customer service, after an intermediate at the chief marketing officer. And now we have revenue operations, which is owned, quote unquote, by a CRO, or in Finland a CCO. By the way, I know some people in Germany who are calling themselves CCO again as well, not CRO. So which is predominantly a sales role, means you see CR, revenue operations, already is on the trajectory of running into the same trap. So again, how to avoid this then?
Well,
apart from everything stops at
no, it's more about defining direction. The most difficult thing in sales, what sales is really about, is quantity, direction, and quality. So how many meetings, who are we, or marketing, where are we spending the money, where are we addressing the sales resources? Then we are expecting meetings and opportunities and offers and eventually deals. Now, what RevOps technology does is that it's like when salespeople right now are given their quotas, they are pretty much alone with their quotas. They need to figure out where the money is. So it's like fishing without a sonar. Now, what our role is to show where the money is, what to cross-sell to existing customers, what would be the first closing deal for new customer acquisition purposes, and how you then expand those customer relationships to next offerings. So it's about enabling people to concentrate on the best possibilities of success. So it's serving the people. It's turning CRM into something that serves you instead of you serving the CRM. That's basically it. And when we are, for example, doing the readiness analysis, it's about recognizing that these customers are, let's say, for example, that the reality that we know is that only 5% of customers are any given moment in the market of buying something. Now, that's the moment when customers are already active, which means that you are already in a competitive situation. When you have customers where you have potential and they are not in an active role already buying, you have the possibility of influencing their decisions and interests before they get into active mode and start following status quo, buying what everybody else is buying. So it's a way of influencing the impact of both marketing and sales. Customer success in this role is very much about understanding that introducing new offerings for existing customers, for example, or making sure that the customers who are now using a certain service are actually successful in doing so, and they develop into possibility of expanding the relationships or upgrading the service and moving forward. So everything should be considered as a how do we serve customers maximally? What is our role for different types of companies, and how do we make that real?
So now we have managed to mostly not use the term AI or agents. I think this was the second time now that either of these terms got mentioned. But as we are in 2026, what is the contribution that an agentic system, or in general AI systems, beyond predictive analytics or prescriptive analytics, can benefit to revenue operations?
So many.
Well, take the top three.
Yes, let's take the top three. So agentic AI is great at, and also generative AI in general, is great at making sense of what has already been produced. So you need the fundamental data created in a way that it's data as a product level. So it's trackable, traceable, evidence-based. And then when you have that, then MCP, API, and capacity to deliver that data to agentic AI and LLM tools like Copilot or Agent Force, it's capable of delivering much better answers to people. And in my opinion, it's also about being proactive. So when things change, for example, customer risk arises, there are activities that then start, for example, launch an agentic process that what are the possibilities that we can now do. So it's about serving the whole and creating the stack of technologies instead of trying to solve everything with one.
Okay, as we are sort of short of time, because this is a heck of a fast hour, although it might not always appear like this. Let me try to summarize a little. What I got 2 points. I got a lightning round for you, and after first I would like to question whether I understood this correctly. So the main difference between a customer relationship management, let's call it a system for time being, and a RevOps system is that, well, the CRM helps you do workflows, and RevOps in general helps you running the business, not sales, the business. Yeah.
Business.
Okay.
Yes.
Check. So the second is for CX people. So they actually can leverage revenue operations if they use the right metrics, KPIs, which is not CSAT or NPS, as you mentioned, which is, well, but lifetime value. You mentioned lifetime value in between, yeah? So this means that if you are a CX person, the benefit for you would be looking into basically account metrics, and they're predominantly monetary ones, like how to improve the customer lifetime value.
And offering penetration is the number one way of increasing lifetime value. The more offerings customers are using, the higher their average revenue per account is, and the longer they stay. Because retention is much higher when customers are engaging with you with multiple offerings instead of only one.
Okay, so then let's do a lightning round. Short question, fast question, fast answer. So no novel, no book. The book is already written. You held it into the camera. So we still see many CRM implementations fail. So people think about or say about, and it's about 60 to 80%, depending on who you ask. Why is that? Because the tool is bad, or what's the main reason that you see?
Companies need to invest in deploying educating people to use, creating the capabilities around the technology about 3-4 times more than into the technology itself. If you don't invest in that, in the capabilities and the use and the benefits and the culture, the technology doesn't change absolutely anything, and that's why it fails.
Okay, so if you're blasting NPS to some extent, is that just a fig leaf, a comfort blanket, or can it be used as a decision tool? And if so, how?
I've done NPS researches in a way that I first ask NPS, then ask about what products are you actually using, what channels are you using, and relate to those. So NPS is a highline figure, but you need to connect it with the facts that either grow or decline NPS. NPS is an indicator, but revenue as such, how customers billing and buying frequency and cross buying average revenue per account is developing, is way better indicator, and also something that the owner office appreciates and understands.
Okay, so now if there are two branches of thought, customer success, which is from a vendor perspective something ridiculous from my side anyways, should they carry a quota like sales? And if so, why?
Actually, in many cases they do.
Yeah, should they is the question.
I do think that they should. Yeah, for example, in some clients, 30% of new sales and cross-selling is happening. But what is the main thing that we should understand about customer service is that it's like a dump yard of all problems. Customer success doesn't create any problems, that they take care of all of them. It's an innovation mine. All the problems are already there without any research. You know what the customers are feeling bad about. Where do you fail? That's an innovation foundation. You need to use that to improve your service. Take away the problems.
Which makes it vendor success instead of customer success, which is exactly my point about customer success. Last but not least, if revenue operations reports to the CRO, which reports to sales, isn't that, or making directly lose CX as the CX department?
I would say that it's likely that it becomes second. Because simply the management team understands CRO's message and resonates it so much stronger than CX department. They are easily being second level function in that sense.
Okay, and last but not least, looking forward 3 to 5 years. If CRM is the UI, where will live the RevOps logic?
I call it the brain. Where is the brain? Because if you think about splintering of technologies that we are now looking at, we need to bring the data together. We need to make sense of it in one place. Then we need to distribute that those insights and those triggers into the other technologies so that they can serve the purpose. So it's going to be a centralized function. Is it going to run inside CRM as an OEM technology? Possibly. Or it stays separate.
Okay, that's been the lightning round. Thanks a lot, Toni. That's been a great hour, and that's been really a great hour. Thanks for your time, thanks for your insight, and thanks for your patience with my sometimes nagging and annoying questions.
No, thank you. Yes, very much. Thank you about this opportunity. It was great.
To all the other ones who are still patiently here, thanks to you as well. And tune in next week when we invite the slightly earlier mentioned Graham Hill, Dr. Graham Hill, Dr. G, when it comes to the question is which way one should go with CX, strategic or operational, and if there's a difference at all, and which one works also. That's going to be quite interesting as well, because Graham, as you know, is sort of an out-of-the-box thinker. Let's put it like that.
I will be listening.
Okay, so thanks a lot to everybody. We are going backstage now and hope to see you next week.
Take care.